Hello, welcome back to True Crime Guys Podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Michael.
How's everybody doing?
Doing good, man. I just finished up a hamburger here. I was kind of hungry before the show.
I don't know. I guess it's good that you ate. Hopefully you have a strong stomach to maintain what's in there. Hopefully, if you're listening to this right now, you're not just finishing up your first half of your day on your way to your lunch break. You're like,
right.
I'm going to go to that new barbecue joint and you try a pulled pork sandwich.
Yes. God, that sounds delicious.
Maybe don't go there. Maybe go get a salad. Maybe make it a meatless Monday if you're listening to this on Monday. Or no, it's going to be Wednesday when this is up.
That's
Meatless
right.
Wednesday.
Meatless
when
Wednesday.
You listen to this podcast.
Doesn't sound
For
as
all you
good,
vegans, you're gonna be justified and vindicated in this episode as to why you shouldn't eat meat, especially strange meat on the side of the road. Don't do that.
Right. All right, dude. I'm gonna ask you a question. How many people do you think have ingested something, a type of meat in their lifetime that was not what they thought it was?
Every single person.
Every single person? You
Yes.
think every single person has ingested? Well, if you've eaten Taco Bell, right? You've pretty much.
Okay. If you are your average, let's just say the average American, right? American citizen that's on the American diet, eating fast food from time to time. Maybe you don't eat it every day. Maybe you have fast food once a week or maybe even once a month.
Right.
Every single one of those people have had some meat that was not what they thought it was. Fucking-teed. Actually, Joe Salatin was on Joe Rogan's podcast. He's like an all-natural farmer. Does it the right way. I don't know if you've heard about him, but like his farm, it's all self-contained. Like he moves he has the chickens in one spot, and they go around pecking at where the cows were the day before, and they pick through that, and he just rotates all the animals around the way it should be done, as opposed to caging them all up inside factories and stuff. Right. He was saying that on average, the average burger that you eat from the grocery store or from a fast food place has, what was it? It was either like 60 or it was like just a stupid amount of animals. Like in one burger, there's like 60 different animals ground up into it or whatever.
60 different animals.
Yeah, and he said like burgers that come from his farm is one cow is what that patty came from. So I'm saying like there's probably farmers and stuff.
60 different animals. You're saying like it may be parts of 30 cows and
all the
chickens.
Same animal, the same type of animal, but it came from 60 different cows, all ground up and whatnot.
And why is that a problem if they're all raised the same?
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I think also some stuff can get mixed up. If you're working if you're talking some of these mass farms that don't do things the right way, maybe some different types of animal, or maybe like a finger from a factory worker ended up in there. We've eaten some messed up shit, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no doubt.
All of us have had something that was funky, for sure.
Especially if you live in a big city with a lot of food trucks. Small food stands, hot dog stands, I mean, who knows, honestly?
Yeah.
I mean,
if you've gone to a lower end restaurant, like maybe the health grade and all that, who knows what kind of crap they're mixing in to cut a few bucks,
Yeah, I know, man. I can think
like
of a
street
few
cat,
restaurants.
Yeah, chop up some street cat and mix it in with their food. Who knows?
Hey, man, you'll never know. You throw a little teriyaki sauce on that shit.
That's the beauty. Right? When you go out to eat, you just gotta just kind of ignorance is bliss,
That's right. You just buy in. Listen, every restaurant does nasty shit. That's just how it is. Right. Anybody that's worked in the restaurant business will tell you.
We've all seen Waiting, right? If you haven't seen Waiting, you got to see that one.
Yeah, that's right.
Ryan Reynolds, one of his earlier films, it was classic.
Isn't Dane Cook in that as well?
Yes, he was the cook. Dane was the cook.
Yes,
in that. And he was disgusting.
He was absolutely disgusting. Yeah,
but he played that role perfectly. He looks like he could be a gross cook at an Applebee's.
Well, dude, he worked at Burger King. That was like one of his first jobs. He's got a bit about it.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right.
He called it the BK Lounge.
Yep. Dude, my wife and I, that was like the first year that we dated. We went and saw him at the Mandalay Bay Arena. Yeah. We saw him way back, probably like 2007 or something, back when he was massive.
Yes, dude. Yes, he was blowing up when we were in high school.
He's still funny. It still actually does hold up. I know he catches some shit for like being hokey or whatever, but like listen to his old specials. They are still funny. I think at least.
You just have to take it. Yeah, you just have to understand that the dude's a spaz, and that's just his that's his style of comedy. You know what I mean? It is. He's like not quite as spastic as Jim Carrey.
Right.
He just hit it just the right time. Did he steal material, or did someone steal some material from him, or he got in some trouble, didn't he?
Dane?
Yeah.
I don't recall anything like that. I know that he had went through some hard times where he had lost someone close to him, and then also his manager, which was like his brother or something, had completely stole all of his money.
That's
And
what
so,
I'm
like
thinking
even
about.
after he
That's
was
it.
super rich, he had lost all of his money by
Yes.
someone stealing from him, someone close to him.
Yes.
So
okay.
I know he went
That's
through a
what I
rough
was-
patch, and that's part of why he disappeared for a while, and then he came
Gotcha.
back around.
Gotcha.
But
Shit.
anyways, let's not ramble too much and get one started a bunch of times.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. We don't wanna
Let's
do
get
that.
into a man who killed people and turned them into sandwiches, guys. I want to thank John Gilbert for the suggestion. I'm sure we've had this one suggested before. It's
We
one of
have.
those cases that you see the memes of and stuff, or you see the guy's picture and it's like, this guy turned humans into sandwiches.
Yeah, he's an internet favorite as far as that picture. If you type in, like gross serial killers or just serial killers in general, this dude's probably gonna pop up with his fat ass with his arms spread out, with his fucking teeth showing or whatever.
Dude, his belly has
He's
like
huge.
a 3-foot butt crack going down the middle of it. It is insane. Big, hairy 3-foot butt crack on his stomach.
Yep.
This guy
Everyone knows what you're talking about too. It hangs out below the t-shirt. It's fucking gross.
beyond beer belly. It's like another level. I don't know what you would call it. It's a pot belly, I guess, like a pot belly pig. He's literally like a human pot belly pig.
Dude, 450 pounds.
450 pounds.
450 pounds. That's more than 2 humans. That's
That's a lot of
more
bad
than 2
decisions.
good,
That's a
healthy
lot of bad
humans.
life decisions. A lot of bad dietary decisions.
A lot.
This guy's a model of health.
A model of bad health. Yeah, but a model of health nonetheless.
We're not fat shaming. We love our bigger people out there, but this guy is a disgusting serial killer, drug addict,
Yes.
450-pound pot belly mess of a human being. And
No
we're going to
doubt.
dive into him right after Michael's intro.
Let's do it. Old Joe Metheny had a lot of last words. He's a man that really liked to talk, really liked to lay it all out on the table. I thought it seemed fitting that I do some quotes in the intro. So you get a real feel for how evil and how terrible he is. But I'm gonna do it a little different. Instead of trying to creep you guys out by this guy, I'm just gonna do it in the dumbest voice I can think of. And that is the voice of Kip. So here's a big old long quote from, damn it, what was his name? Fuck. Oh, it's Joe Metheny. Hey, y'all thought I forgot. Ha, it's Joe Metheny. All right. Here it is.
Well, I knew the cops were on the way, but I didn't run. I gathered up her clothing, grabbed the keys to the gate, went out and opened it. As soon as I stepped out the gate, a cop car pulled up, and the cop jumped out, pulled his gun on me, told me to get on the ground, and that is where it just all came to an end. They took me down and booked me. She had told them that I said I was going to kill her like the rest, which was true. They had me sitting in a little room down at Homicide, drilling me and damn near kissing my ass, trying to find out what I had done. They pulled me out of city jail every day for 1 month, taking me back and forth. I had them going crazy over the company digging up the remains of those 2 bitches there, cause I had the remains buried in 7 different holes. The only thing I felt bad about in any of this was I didn't get to murder those 2 motherfuckers I was really after, and that's my ex-old lady and the bastard she hooked up with. Well, That's my story. Horrible but true, Napoleon. So the next time you're riding down the road and you happen to see an open pit beef stand that you've never seen before, make sure you think about this story before you take a bite of that sandwich. Sometimes you never know who you may be eating. Napoleon.
True Grime Guys production.
All right, our case this week. Big ol' Haas, or Tiny, as his friends called him, Joe Metheny. That old gag, you know. Guy's really huge, and you call him Tiny.
You know, I heard a lot of people pronounce his name Metheny, and I think it's funny because it says meth, but I think it's Metheny.
Is it Metheny? We're gonna go with Metheny because the guy loved meth.
Yeah,
So
I mean that's what everybody else was saying. That's what a lot of people were how they were pronouncing it.
It just goes to show God has a sense of humor, right?
Yeah, Metheny.
Some things you just can't write, you know, guys. Joe Metheny.
So, listen,
loves meth.
sometimes that's right. Sometimes the real world is just funnier than anything you could write.
Yeah, sometimes
It happens that way.
Truth is stranger than fiction.
Old Tiny Meth, old Joe Meth.
Yep. So old Joe Metheny was born on March 2nd, 1955 in Baltimore, Maryland. Shares a birthday with John Bon Jovi, Rebel Wilson, and Daniel Craig.
Wow.
Who would you say is your favorite of those three? I'm going to go between Rebel Wilson and Daniel Craig. I'm not a big Bon Jovi guy, but
I'm not a big Bon Jovi fan either.
Rebel Wilson makes me laugh. I'll go with her.
It's just because of our generation. You know, it's the generation before us that was the big Bon Jovi fans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I like some of the songs. You don't get me wrong. Like Living on a Prayer. But
yeah.
He seems annoying. I don't know.
Rebel Wilson is hilarious in Pitch Perfect and in pretty much everything she's in.
That's what I'm saying. She's funny.
But I also appreciate Daniel Craig a lot too. I think, yeah. I'd probably go with Rebel Wilson because she's a little more relatable.
Yeah.
I think her comedy is a little more relatable. I like her careless attitude. I like people like that who are just like, whatever. Like, I know I got it going on and you're an idiot. You know, like, I don't know. I think that kind of comedy. She's got a lot of confidence. Yes. And it
for
makes
someone
her
who
very
doesn't
funny.
have a traditional Hollywood look, you know?
Exactly. And I appreciate that.
Right.
Thank you, Hollywood, for incorporating these people.
Yeah. So old Joe Metheny, was one of 6 children. When he was 6, he had kind of a rough upbringing, but it wasn't like in a traditional, like a lot of the serial killers we had. It doesn't seem like it was riddled with abuse necessarily. It was just kind of unfortunate because when he was 6, coming up in a group with 5 siblings, you know, large family, and then his father was killed in a car accident when he was 6 in West Virginia. And so that kind of threw his childhood like a wrench in it. And his mother, rather than being, there to tend to her 6 children and provide for them and give them nurture and all that stuff, she was forced to then work multiple jobs. After the death, Joe's mother was forced to work several jobs to keep food on the table for her 6 children. She worked as a waitress, a barmaid, and a food truck driver. So you imagine there was very little time that she was actually at home parenting her 6 children, so they kind of had to tend to themselves. And
I wonder where Joe fell in these 6 kids. You know, was he like one of the older ones? Was he one of the younger ones? Do you know? I couldn't find anything.
I was telling you before this that it's kind of a tougher one to study for because it just seems like the information on everywhere you look, the information is all the same. It's like what the Wikipedia page has is what every article that you look into has. And I actually got to the point where I was looking through court documents to try and find more information, like from the proceedings from his trials and stuff. I was literally looking through legal jargon to try and find some information that wasn't out there on all these articles. But none of I could never find where he lied in that group of children, where whether he was the oldest, youngest, middle, what.
Okay. Well, what's funny is like these killers or these suspects or whatever that talk, it always seems that way. It's like almost like since they talked and said everything, everybody just goes with that. But when you're studying someone who didn't talk and was very secret, you can find all kinds of conflicting information.
Right. People dive into their past more and get different sources and
Exactly, because they don't just take what was given to them and be like, well, this is from his mouth, so this must be true. I was just curious because if he's one of the older ones, a lot of times when children are left alone and they're the older children, they actually turn out more responsible and more productive in society because they almost take on a parent role at a young age. I bet Joe wasn't.
I bet he was middle. I bet he was in the middle, and you'd
maybe
think that
even one of the younger ones.
You'd think that maybe they would have mentioned he was the oldest or the youngest of 6 children if in these articles or whatnot, if that was the case. So the fact that they just said one of 6 children, he probably fell somewhere in the middle. I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
Yeah. When he was 6, as we mentioned, his father was killed, and his mother's working all these different jobs. He says that his childhood was traumatic and that he was shuffled around to different foster homes and shuffled through the welfare system. His mother disputed these claims. She says that he was never in the foster care system and that he may have spent some time at different friends or family members' houses just because she was working so many different jobs, and that they were never using welfare because she had all these different jobs, and that she did the best that she could. It does sound like she just got kind of screwed by her husband dying unexpectedly, and that income was gone and she had to now provide for all these kids.
Right. Maybe that seemed a little more traumatic to a child, Now all of a sudden they have to stay at other people's houses,
Yeah.
Just for their own safety. It doesn't necessarily mean it was a bad childhood.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've had cousins that had to stay, with me when I was younger because of unfortunate situations with their parents and stuff. So sometimes that just happens.
Yeah.
Now, and one thing also is that we catch him in some like potential lies because he also tried to say later that his mom was dead and she wasn't. Like they found her and interviewed her, and so as much as we're supposed to take his word because he gives like this confession about everything that happened, why he did what he did, how he did it, all this stuff. You also have to take it with a grain of salt because he was a drug addict, killer, scumbag, and his version of events may be a little skewed. He lied a little bit, so.
Yeah, and a lot of most of these killers, they're looking to place blame.
Yeah,
they're looking to get the burden off of their shoulders. So they'll say whatever the hell they got to say,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So his mother maintains that he had a pretty normal childhood, aside from the fact that the kids were left to their own devices a little bit because she was gone all the time working, trying to provide for them. And in 1973, when Joe turned 18, he joined the Army, where he would be stationed in Germany initially, and this is where some more disparities come into play, where he says one thing and his mother still says another, and also history would kind of lead you to believe that he's lying, because he says that after being stationed in Germany, he was then shipped off to Vietnam, where he played a part in the war, where he was a part of an artillery unit, and that's where he supposedly got his heroin addiction, was when he was in Vietnam fighting the war. So, but the timeline of when he would have been over there, if he joined in 1973, you have to factor in that he would have had to go through boot camp. He would have been stationed in Germany for a little while.
Right.
He wouldn't have made it over to Vietnam until the war was pretty much over, because it ended in 75. So basically all direct involvement in Vietnam was ending or already over by the time he would have been there. So him fighting in this artillery unit seems to be a bit of a stretch. And his mother also said that she has no memory of him serving in Vietnam. However, they weren't really talking during this time. So maybe it's possible him and his mom were both liars.
Yeah, it is possible. Or maybe he was sent out there, but, it was, like you said.
Sat around doing drugs rather than because there was nothing to do over there.
Exactly. Because like you said, the U.S. involvement was very minimal in those 2 years. And the likelihood that he got in there right at the beginning of 74
is unlikely, right? It was probably closer to 75.
Yeah, for sure. Because, most branches of the military, before they're going to send you into a war, you not only have to go through boot camp, but you're going to have to go through a combat training as well.
And then he had also time to be stationed in Germany first, too. So
yeah, exactly.
You would have been trained at a base in America, right? Like gone through initial boot
correct.
Camp and all that before you'd be sent to Germany, then spend some time over there stationed, and then go to Vietnam. It's just the timeline. He would have been getting to Vietnam by the time it was ending, pretty much.
Yeah, they sent him over there to help him pack up. I mean,
and get a drug addiction, apparently.
Yes, apparently. I mean, according to him.
That definitely happens in war sometimes.
Oh, well, yeah.
Apparently all the Nazis were meth addicts because they were being given these meth pills.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
Yeah, it does.
Upon Joe's return to the States, he met a woman who was also a heroin addict, and things spiraled out of control from there. They would soon have a son together, and Joe spent most of his time during these years in the streets with other drug addicts and was known to have a temper. This is where he got the nickname Tiny, was from the street people he hung out with. He would end up being arrested several times for somewhat relatively minor offenses compared to what he later does. Like assaults and drug possession and those type of things.
Right.
By the 1990s was when he was known by Tiny, living in the streets. At 6'1", he had a large frame and was very overweight, as we've mentioned a few times. By the time he was in prison and later interviewed, he weighed 450 pounds. So I don't know what he was weighing on the streets at this time, but many years later in prison, he was up to 450. So that's a big man.
Yeah. I would say he's somewhere hovering around 400 still.
In the streets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
he
subtract
was
100
doing
pounds,
heroin?
you're still 350.
Yeah, I think he was he because it's early on he was doing heroin, right? But I think he probably switched over to meth because it was cheaper and it got popular during that time.
Right. Well, I'm going to say he was big and Tiny was a ironic nickname.
Yeah,
right?
no doubt.
So for you to get that nickname, in a tongue-in-cheek style or whatever, you would still have to be somewhat big, I would think.
Yeah.
So that's what makes me think he was probably still hovering around 400 pounds. Mm-hmm. But maybe wrong.
So he was hanging around during this time in bars, lived with bands of homeless men in squalid makeshift camps in South Baltimore, and spent most of his money on heroin, crack cocaine, and Southern Comfort. Quite a cocktail there. Metheny was able to hold a job, however, as a forklift driver during this time, and was described as intelligent, well-spoken, and well-mannered by by the company he worked for.
Well,
so quite a forklift driver. But when you're on crack and stuff, I'm sure you can move some stuff around with a forklift.
Oh yeah,
pretty efficiently. You'd probably fucking get that whole warehouse sorted out in like 20 minutes. You just hear screeching around, moving.
Yeah, he's just fucking drifting in a forklift.
They were probably providing him with drugs because the shit was getting done so well.
Yeah. No doubt, dude. But I mean, also he knew that this was his ticket to more heroin, crack cocaine, and Southern Comfort. He knew if he lost this job, because he didn't give a shit where he lived. Obviously, I mean, he spent most of his time with the homeless anyway. So you got to think. Imagine taking your whole paycheck and going and buying crack.
Right.
Like this dude, he was living the life. You know what I mean? So he wanted to keep this job.
There are some people who are able to function for many, many years with a serious drug addiction. I don't know if I've ever mentioned,
no doubt.
But our neighbor across the street growing up, our neighbor lived across the street from us for 20 something years before my parents finally moved and I moved. But he did transmissions out of his garage for people. Like he was really good at working on trannies, and he had an 8-ball a day addiction pretty much.
Wow.
Of meth. And so like, I mean, when he could get it, and he would disappear for a few days, but he was a great neighbor and everyone kind of knew that he had that problem, but he kept it like never really spiraled out of control to where he was able to maintain the addiction with the money he was bringing in. Fixing transmissions, you can make killer money, especially when you have no overhead when you're doing it out of your garage. So there was always like 10 cars parked out front of the house or whatever.
And also imagine the hours you could put in.
Oh, dude.
When you have the energy of meth. Yeah. I mean, you could work all through the night on some
Actually, he was
transmissions,
a perfect neighbor in a sense that he always had his garage open all night, was always working on stuff. So he was like the eyes in the neighborhood. Believe it or not, a meth addict was the guy that we trusted to keep an eye on everything because he was actually a trustworthy guy. He never stole from anyone that we knew.
Right.
As far as we knew, he didn't need to because like we said, he was making so much money fixing transmissions for people. So, I mean, there are those people, they're rare, but they can have a serious addiction with a really bad drug like meth and still kind of maintain somewhat of a normal life aside from what they do at night with the drugs. But
interesting story.
Yeah. So by 1994, he had gotten a new job and was working as a trucker. His son was now 6 years old, and it was around this time that we believe Joe murdered his first victim, Kathy Ann Magaziner, a 39-year-old woman who had been convicted for prostitution. He ended up burying her body in a shallow grave on the side of the factory where he worked. So he's working at this pallet company. which we'll talk a lot more about later because it's like a serial killer's dream as far as being handed the keys to this property, which the location, just everything about this pallet company was perfect to lure people to because it was secluded.
Right.
And
I'm sure it was like a big warehouse, and most warehouses are kind of out of the way.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, we'll talk more
You know
about
what
it
I mean?
because I actually Google Street Viewed this place and it has not changed an iota.
Oh,
Right now,
nice.
if you go look at the Street View, it is still the same pallet company on a secluded, like dead end road. It's creepy. Still the 8-foot high fence with barbed wire with pallets stacked in front. It is the same place it was back in the early 90s. It's so creepy.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense, dude. I was just thinking when you were talking about he used the advantage of where he worked. I was like, yeah, because most warehouses, they're kind of out of the way. They're pushed back because they're not exactly the prettiest buildings. They're made to be functional. You know what I mean? And they just need space to store shit.
Yep.
So,
and it was across the street from like a wooded area. It's like I said, a serial killer's dream. So he had met Catherine one night in July of 1994 and took her to his trailer. So he had a trailer located at the Joe Stein and Son Pallet Company, this location we talked about, the secluded business district, across from woods, 8-foot high fence with barbed wire and everything else. We'll describe it more in a little bit because this is his location where he does all these crimes. And he was given a trailer by the people that owned by Joe Stein and Son Pallet Company. They gave him his own trailer to stay there and keep an eye on he kind of like made a deal with them where he could keep an eye on the place at night.
Right.
And he obviously was homeless prior, so he got to live there, and that was where he worked, and it just kind of seemed to work out for everybody. He was like security in a sense. While in his trailer at the pallet company, he had sex with her while she was partially clothed. Catherine had been in his trailer approximately 1 hour when he strangled her with an electrical cord and robbed her of her purse and clothing. He then buried Catherine in a shallow grave and buried her purse and clothing in a separate location. The body would end up remaining there for more than 2 years before, his crimes were discovered. He later said that he had also dug up her skeleton 6 months later and put her head in a box and threw it in the trash. So trying to get rid of her identity, I suppose, with dental records. By getting rid of the head.
Didn't he also violate the head as well?
I didn't see anything about that, but I wouldn't put it past him knowing how sick this guy is.
I found that in more than a couple different outlets that he had basically had sex with the head and then ended up breaking the skull. Damn. So the only way they were able to identify her was through the dental records.
That is next level gross because it was already decomposed at that point, like 6 months. Like, what the? I mean, it's already super gross. So don't be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, we've had those cases before. Good old Big Ed Kemper did that with his mother.
You guys wanted the details, so here they are.
Yeah, I want to say Ted Bundy did that too, right? Something along those lines.
Yeah.
So
something very similar,
but usually not 6 months later. But
right? Yeah.
This case is next level gross in many ways.
Very many.
You're welcome, listeners.
Also,
Joe's
thanks,
girlfriend,
Joe Gilbert, or what was his name?
Yeah, John
Who
Gilbert.
suggested this? John Gilbert. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Blame John Gilbert, everybody.
So after the murder of what we believe to be his first victim, Joe's girlfriend either became aware of the murder for other reasons. She may have become fearful of him, but for whatever reason, she takes off following his first victim not long after it. And on one evening in 1994, Joe returned home from a long haul because he also was working as a trucker, as we mentioned, to find her and his child missing. When we have some quotes from him because he did a confession later on in prison. And so we're going to sprinkle in some of these confessions, and some of them are from the mind of a sick drug addict serial killer. So keep that in mind. These are not our words. He has a way with words, and he's quite vulgar, so just keep that in mind. He says, I got off and went home as I always did, but when I opened the door and turned on the light, I noticed there was nothing there. My old lady had taken everything, including my son, and left me. Her leaving was not my problem. She took my 6-year-old son with her. She was a crack addict and worthless piece of shit. I would have paid her just to get out of my life. All she had to do was take my son over to my mother's house, and we could have had everything else and be gone. So I mean, that's not exactly what I'm talking about. That sounded actually pretty practical. But there's
Yeah.
quotes later on where you
Bad
hear
example.
a little bit of, yeah, there's more quotes coming. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But yeah, he comes home and his girlfriend and his son are gone. And it wasn't the fact that she was gone that he had a problem with. It was that she took his son, as we just heard. So this kind of set off a series of more murders quickly. He would come to find out 6 months later that she had left him to live with a man that Joe knew across town. The man was essentially a pimp, and the mother of Joe's child was working as a sex worker, and eventually she was arrested along with the man that she ran away to, and the kid was put into the child care system, and Joe knew better than to try and get his son back because of his record. Here's another quote from him. I had no chance of going to social services and trying to get my son back due to my past criminal record, so I took it upon myself with the hatred that I had for these two who lost my son to go looking for them. I had found out from someone that they was going to under the bridge and getting high with some homeless motherfuckers who lived under that bridge. And so he was going to go down there and look for them with the intent to kill.
Right.
He was completely enraged at his ex and her boyfriend. He decided to go looking for them. He says, quote, I went under there looking for them. They were not there, but the two homeless motherfuckers they got high with were down there. They were passed out on some old stinking mattresses, and that's where they were when I left them, except they were dead from being chopped up.
Jesus.
Yeah. So
Dude, this
taking out his
reminds me
rage.
Yeah, just took it out on two. I mean, relatively innocent people. I mean, especially to him, had nothing.
It's
to do
ironic
with him.
because I feel like he thinks he's cleaning up the streets in a sense from these drug addicts that got his son taken away, but he's one of them. He's hung out under that bridge. He's done drugs with them. That's why he knows about them.
He probably still was. Any other day, you know, he didn't just sit in his fucking trailer doing drugs by himself.
Right.
He was still hitting up those same places.
He sat on a golden throne in his own mind because he was the one that had a job. You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And maybe he was providing them. He was probably helping them get drugs, providing because he was the only one that had an income.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, he's still hanging out under a bridge doing drugs with, he still would have been homeless if his job didn't provide him with a trailer on their lot,
Yeah, exactly. He'd be right there on them mattresses.
Yeah. So Joe had allegedly, as he said, killed those two homeless men and cut them into pieces with an axe and left them laying there on the mattress where they were sleeping. And that would come back on him quickly. He would be on trial for the murdering those two men. But this night that he had done this was far from over. The night he went under that bridge looking for his ex and her boyfriend and had killed those two sleeping homeless men, this night was still going to go on. According to his later confession, he said that he then lured a woman down under the same bridge. She too was a drug addict. Joe got her high and questioned her about his ex-girlfriend's whereabouts. She didn't have any answers for him, so he allegedly beat, raped, and killed her as well. He claims to have put her body in some bushes before luring another woman. It's quite a night now. He's gone down there, killed two homeless men sleeping, lured a woman down,
he tasted
killed her.
blood and just couldn't fucking stop, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's
Holy shit.
supposedly killed one person before this, but now he's just like bloodlust, like Peter, what was it, Peter Curtin or whatever, where he was just like had to kill. Just
Yes. Yes, that's what it reminded me of.
yeah. So he then claims that he lured another woman down under there, and did the same thing that he did to the prior one. Questioned her, gave her drugs, raped and killed her. And here's another quote from him. But I was about to throw her in the bushes with the other one, and I noticed an old man down by the river fishing and looking back up at me. I grabbed a steel pipe that was lying by and ran down on him and laid his head wide open. So I put the two girls with him in the river and weighed them down with rocks. That was a very busy night for me. 5 murders within about 7 hours. I washed up in that river and cleaned up the crime scene as much as I could, then I left. So just went on an absolute killing spree over being so angry about his ex and not being able to find her down there.
That was really that dude just down there fishing and just being like, "Oh
my gosh,
shit!"
Yeah, he even said that dude was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah,
because I mean, even Joe, because he kind of put him in a different category. He was killing drug addicts in his mind to kind of clean up this situation or whatever. He thought he was better than them. But this guy fishing just happened to be there and witness him dragging this woman's body in there. So that guy was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, supposedly.
Yes.
Now, it wouldn't be long after that he'd be caught because he really didn't clean up the crime scene all that well. He left the two men that he had supposedly chopped up with the axe pretty much where
because
they were.
that was a crime of passion right there. He was in a rage. You could tell at that time he didn't give a fuck. He just wanted to kill somebody because he felt like he had been wronged.
Right.
And he was probably high on meth himself.
Yeah.
So,
and amazingly, as we've seen so many times in this show with serial killers, there's a moment where it should be over and done and locked. They should be locked up forever. But for whatever twist of fate or just terrible job by the criminal justice system, they get back out on the streets and they kill more. That's this moment right here. He says 2.5
because of their
weeks.
victim selection.
No doubt, and also just the chaos that was this part of or I guess West Baltimore or South Baltimore, whatever it was. The chaos that was this area with a lot of homeless drug addicts and stuff. There was a lot of crime going on under this bridge in general, and that kind of saves him.
Okay.
So he says 2.5 weeks later, I was arrested and charged with the murders of the 2 men that I chopped up. I spent close to 18 months in Baltimore jail awaiting trial. The trial lasted 1 week and it was thrown out of court because of lack of evidence. Now, that's what you find in most articles, and I had to dive deeper because I'm like, how does that get thrown out of lack of evidence? Like, how does he get it? How is there enough to arrest him and bring him to trial, and then there's a lack of evidence at trial? And it was just a fluky, crazy thing that happened with that. Underneath that bridge, there was so much chaos and crime going on. So we'll break down how the hell he got off. He had been put on trial in 1995 for the killing of these two 33-year-old homeless men. Their names were Randy Piker and Randall Brewer. Those were the two that were on the mattress that he chopped up with the axe. Piker and Brewer.
Randy.
Yeah, Randy and Randy, and they were both 33. Crazy.
That is crazy.
However, there were disputes that involved rival groups of homeless men. So there was like kind of homeless gang wars going on down there, essentially. Coincidentally, after being used to kill Brewer and Piker, the same axe that Joe had used was stolen and used by Larry Amos, another homeless man, to kill a different homeless man, Everett Dowell.
Oh, my God. So he probably just left the axe there?
He left the axe there. That axe was then picked up by a homeless man who killed another homeless man with that axe that was just used to kill 2 other homeless men. This fucking axe has seen some shit.
Yes.
Yeah. This is how he gets off.
Could talk, am I right?
Right.
Holy shit.
This is how he gets off, because that same axe was used right afterwards to kill a different man. And Joe's alleged murder victims, Piker and Brewer's bodies, were discovered on August 2nd, which was the same day that Dowell was killed. So this shit happened right after with the same axe. Larry Amos was then arrested and accused of first-degree murder. He ended up pleading guilty to lesser manslaughter charge and was released 1 year after serving 9 months of his 8-year sentence. So he kills a man with an axe and gets off in 9 months. And
it's all about the selection, dude. Like I said, they don't give a shit about these homeless people.
No.
They're
like, kill each other. We don't care. Clean up the streets.
Cleaning up the streets. God almighty.
But the way that this got off Joe was a member of the jury was unconvinced that Metheny was the one who killed Brewer and Piker, because the fact that axe was then used to kill a different man, and that man was then convicted of manslaughter for doing that. There was just enough possibility that guy was the one that killed the other two that supposedly Joe killed. So this concluded in July of 1996 that there wasn't enough evidence to convict him. Joe later said that he was guilty of those murders along with the others that he had committed. Then he's back on the streets. Just a crazy coincidence and series of events that led to him being back on the streets and led to more victims piling up. He says, quote, I was free again. I went back and talked to my old boss into giving me my job back at the pallet company. He also got the trailer back on the property that his boss let stay there to keep an eye on the place. The boss even gave him the keys to the front gate and main building. The company was on this dead-end road that we talked about. It was very isolated. It was perfect for what he wanted to do. And as I mentioned, I looked into the Google Street View of this pallet company. It's still there. You guys can look it up on your own accord. I'm not going to give it out. I don't want any liability from this pallet company that still exists. I don't know if it's the same guys that own it or whatever, because I know one of them actually got in trouble.
Is it called the same?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I know it's a pallet company. It still is a pallet company. It's still at the same address. It still has pallets stacked up like 10 feet high or more. It still has the 8-foot fence with the barbed wire around it on a dead-end street across from a wooded area, just like it was back in the 90s.
Right.
This company has a locked entrance gate and is surrounded in part by 8-foot chain link fence with barbed wire. There's approximately the size of 1 square city block. There's a warehouse office building that is surrounded by literally thousands of wooden pallets, which are stacked up in varying heights throughout the lot. There's no business conducted at this company or surrounding companies during the evening hours. It's a dead-end street where there was little to no pedestrian traffic. The closest main thoroughfare is Washington Boulevard. Joe lived in a one small bedroom trailer located on the south fence nearest the residential development to the pallet company. So this is just a dream for someone who's wanting to lure people and kill them. It's literally like your own little prison, essentially. Once you get them in there and you close those gates, there's an 8-foot fence with barbed wire, and you're a huge man. And you lure these female sex workers back there to strangle them, and where are they going to go? They're locked in there.
And he probably knows every inch of that property.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I mean, where are you going to hide? He's got forklifts that he can move shit around. I mean, the dude's a dangerous human in there.
And as we know about repeat offenders, repeat sex offenders, repeat murderers, serial killers, they just can't stop. You know, like a lot of times they do get a break, and rather than learning their lesson and stopping, they literally can't wait to get He just gotten away with several murders, basically been taken to trial and gotten off almost on a technicality, or just by getting lucky and a crazy coincidence. And yet he can't wait to kill again. Like, it's almost like he spent the time, that 18 months in prison, thinking about how he was gonna go about it better this time.
No doubt. It's like it almost gave him more confidence. He's like, damn, I didn't even try and I got away with all that. That was just a passionate axe slinging and I got away with that. I'm going to actually, if I put a little planning into this, I could do this for the rest of my life.
And especially if you're going to kill sex workers, because as we've found out time and time again on this, the police just don't really look hard for them. It's a sad fact. So Joe would end up luring Kimberly Lynn Spicer back to his trailer in mid-November 1996, not long after he got out of prison, where he then killed her by stabbing her. Around this time, Joe most likely also killed 28-year-old Tony Lynn Ingracia, as well as several other homeless women. These are ones that he says he killed 3 other women during this time, but they were never found, and also they were, as we mentioned, people living in the street that weren't necessarily reported missing or searched for by the police. So, this is where the story of Joe Metheny became bizarre and infamous, even by serial killer standards. Was considered very bizarre, because this is where the sandwiches come in. So, hope you guys already ate, or you're not about to go eat a sandwich. He says, "quote I killed and butchered their bodies up. I cut the meat up and put them in some Tupperware bowls. Then I put it in a freezer. I buried the remains in shallow graves in a little woods patch behind the company. Over the next couple weeks on weekends, I opened up a little open pit beef stand. I had real roast beef and pork sandwiches, and why not? They were very good. The human meat taste was very similar to pork. If you mix together right, no one can tell the difference."
Oh, Jesus.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
So people were pulling over to this roadside meat stand sandwich stop thing.
I'm sure this stand is credible. It just popped up out of nowhere with this fucking
what's the grade?
dude
What's
running
what's the health grade from the county?
Bro, it's a stand. I picture it being like a
D grade for delicious
thing, right?
Do what?
I picture it being like a hot dog cart type of deal.
Yeah,
right.
No doubt. Like literally like a fucking gas grill on the side of the road with a little cardboard sign.
Oh,
that's what I picture.
It's like one of those wooden lemonade stand things, and you just standing behind it with a grill.
You know what, though, man? You're really rolling the dice when you pull over for one of those things, in that you could hit the jackpot, and a lot of times that's the best food you'll ever have, is like the hole-in-the-wall, small little places, or like even just like a road stop beef jerky thing where it's like, holy shit, that's the best beef jerky I've ever had, but it also could be human meat. So it's really, if you like to gamble.
Right. But if it's the best beef jerky you ever had, right? I mean, does it matter? Kidding.
Like we said, ignorance is bliss. I guess.
Totally a joke. Jesus Christ.
So who knows how many people pulled over in Baltimore back in, I guess, around 1996 and had if you remember back then, if you were in the area and you had a roadside sandwich, you might be one of them.
Well, imagine the people who saw this on the news, man, when he got arrested.
Oh my God.
And then it was talked about how he had this stand and he was selling this meat and he had confessed to this. Imagine being like, oh my God, I was totally on that corner that day. I stopped there for lunch.
What if you were like, man, what if ever since the day that you'd had that sandwich, you were looking for that meat stand again because you were like, I've never tasted anything like that and it was so good.
Okay, yeah.
What if you were
And
like,
also-
man, I've never had a burger or a sandwich that tasted like that, but I can't stop thinking about it.
Then you're
if you just
sitting at
got
home
this
you're sitting at home like
insatiable-
analyzing yourself. You're like,
Right.
what is wrong with me?
Right. What if
You
you
know,
spawned
okay.
other killers that because they just they had gotten a taste for it and they couldn't stop?
Right, dude. You know he had at least one regular, right? Come on.
Right.
If he was there for any length of time, he had at least one regular. You know, like Ted.
Joe,
from
I don't know
Bob's
what you're
Burgers.
doing. You got to give me your recipe. But I can't stop eating these sandwiches you're making.
Recipe will die with me, brother.
Right.
Oh shit.
If I told you, I'd have to kill you.
Yeah, exactly. And then serve
And then
it.
use
What was
it
that?
for my next
nothing.
sandwich. Jesus. We might be making too many jokes out of this.
Yeah, too many. This is gross, man. You need to straighten up your act.
Yeah. And so Joe by now had definitely killed at least a couple people, but more likely closer to 10 if you believe his later testimony. He had been on trial for murder and gotten extremely lucky to get off on a fluke, and now was killing more people and selling their meat in sandwiches roadside, as we mentioned. Thankfully, his next victim, though, was at one tough cookie and brought this monster to an end before anyone else had the chance to pull over for a quick bite. Quote,
Thank God.
This is another quote from him. This is where it all unravels. Thankfully, we had one woman who was just her fighting for her life saved everything.
Yeah, man. It seems that in a lot of these cases, a lot of these serial killer cases, there's that one person who refuses to be the victim and fights back and just, ends up getting these motherfuckers caught. And then, because it seems that it's always once they get into that rhythm, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They get into that rhythm and then somebody just breaks that mold. Like I said, they just refuse to give in. But you know what? I doubt that this woman was high. A lot of the women, when you look back, he got them high or highly
Right.
intoxicated, and then took advantage of them in different ways. And they probably, and I bet you, a lot of his past victims maybe even trusted him a little bit because of the time he spent in the homeless community.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? These could have been people that, because like you said, he knew the two people that got high with his wife and then that guy that she ran off with. So this may have been...
Very true. Very
You know
true.
what I'm saying?
He might have gained their trust first and then
Yes.
got him high and then caught him off guard, almost like John Wayne Gacy style with
Yes.
coming up behind them and strangling them when they're caught off guard or something. And sometimes
Exactly.
he would use like a power cord or something like that. So
Yep.
here's a quote from him on this situation. He says, "Everything was going pretty good until I ran out of my special meat. Good God. So I lured another bitch up to my trailer. I got her in there and I started to rip her clothes off and started knocking the hell out of her. She was screaming, but there was no one around to hear except me. And I just kept on laughing at her. God, this guy's a monster."
He's a fucking monster.
He says, quote, "I turned around for a split second and that was my mistake. She ran out of the door before I could get her. There was an 8-foot chain link fence with barbed wire on top, as we mentioned, of it around the front of the company. There was a stack of wooden pallets next to the fence about 10 feet high. That bitch scaled those pallets like a monkey, jumped the fence, and ran down the main road where some guy in a pickup truck picked her up and took her to a nearby gas station where they called the cops."
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah, Rita Kemper. That was her name, the woman that saved the day.
Nice. Rita Kemper. She's like an OG parkour expert, bro. Scaled those
Right.
pallets.
He didn't think about the pallets probably because his ass is so fat. There was no way he was climbing pallets without those things just disintegrating under him.
Oh God, dude. If you overdo the weight capacity of a pallet, you fuck it. You're big. You're big, bro.
Yeah. They crumble like a house of cards. So she was gone, man. She used the pallets to her advantage.
Hell yeah.
Got the hell out of there. The woman that escaped and ended Joe's heinous killing spree was Rita Kemper. It was December 8th. Well, she did in a way, but also he gets out of jail on bail quickly from this, believe it or not. He still was going to go to trial for it, but he was just about able to kill again if it weren't for a friend ratting him out. But so she escapes. She goes to the cops. The cops show up that night. They arrest him, and he gets out quickly on bail, I guess. Somehow he gets out of jail from this assault, and she says, she even tells the police that during the assault he told her, quote, "I'm going to kill you and bury you in the woods with the other girls." So they have some evidence that he might be a killer as well.
Some.
He's arrested for the assault and somehow doesn't spend any time really in jail for it because free again. He makes the ultimate mistake by asking a then friend to help him bury the body of Kimberly Lynn Spicer, which had been hiding on the factory site since killing her a month before. So I'm guessing when he gets out, he's got to make quick work of getting rid of the body that was on the property because he's probably thinking the police after this assault and Rita's telling them what he had said that they're going to come looking around the property for bodies since she said that there was other girls buried and stuff.
Yeah, they should have done that while he was in prison for
Right.
for that short amount of time. That would have been ideal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what better terms for a search warrant than he tried to kill a girl and told her that he killed other girls? Like,
Precisely.
I mean, that property should have been searched long before that.
Yeah. So the friend that he had asked to do this for ended up reporting it to the police on December 15th, 1996. This time, Metheny would be arrested again and charged for murder the same day. This time, thankfully, he would never see freedom again. The owner of the business as well, the pallet company, was arrested with Metheny as they left a Christmas party and charged with accessory after the fact for allegedly disposing of evidence. So it may have been somewhat of in cahoots with the pallet company.
So
yeah.
I would say that the pallet company is under new ownership, Lauren, as you questioned earlier. Yeah.
One would hope that wasn't just forgotten about. And you know what? You got good prices on pallets. I don't know what to tell you.
Hey, dude, isn't it weird how like pallets aren't going anywhere? Pallets are a great idea.
No.
Like so basic, but I mean everybody.
There's so many uses for them.
Right. Everybody needs pallets, and people even want pallets after they're not being used anymore. So
you use them for a pallet wall in your house, a cool decoration, or build a little table with them or whatever.
That's got to be a super profitable company because you don't have much in that. You're using the cheap lumber too to build them.
That's how you stick around from the early 90s until 2020. Still, this place is still rocking.
Still killing it.
I don't know, like you said, I got to be under new management, but it's still there.
Yeah.
Still a pallet company now.
Yeah. Shoot.
So Joe Metheny began confessing to other murders as well as that of Kimberly Spicer. He led police to the shallow grave where he had buried Catherine Magaziner, the first victim that we had talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
He had reburied her decapitated remains, as we talked about. Much of the skull was missing, but the police were able to identify her from her dental records. So I guess he had left. Maybe he left her lower jaw or something.
That's what I was saying earlier. The skull was pretty much destroyed from.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Although Joe was indicted for killing Tony Lynn and Gracia, those charges were later dropped due to lack of evidence. He claimed to have also killed 3 other sex workers along Washington Boulevard in Baltimore, although there was no evidence of those crimes other than his confession. He said that he had thrown the bodies into the Patapsco River, where they were never found. The Baltimore Sun reported in 1997 that it was not clear how truthful his claims were about how many people he had killed, although he said he had killed up to 10 people. His attorney said that he was remorseful and that drugs and alcohol had changed his personality and made him violent. However, if you listen to his own words...
Not what he says.
Exactly. There's zero remorse, which we'll get into some quotes here in a second about that.
Attorney's like, throw me a fucking bone here, Metheny.
I know, right? My
Help
client
me
is
out,
remorseful.
bro.
He's in the background like, no, I'm not. I would kill them all again.
Best burgers I ever served. Fuck
Right.
them. Yeah.
Literally had to like duct tape his mouth in court.
Oh my God.
He was tried in 1997 in the Kemper case. That was the woman that he assaulted that jumped the fence and got away.
Yeah.
He was given a sentence of 50 years for kidnapping and attempted a sexual assault on her. He was acquitted of attempting to murder her somehow when it was so clear that he was trying to kill her. He was then sentenced to death in 1998 for the murder of Kimberly Spicer. At his sentencing hearing, he said that he committed the murders because he, quote, enjoyed it, and he got a rush out of it. Got a high out of it. He had no real excuse other than that I like to do it. So that kind of counteracts what his old attorney there was saying. It doesn't quite match up.
Not quite.
In August of 1998, he pleaded guilty to murdering and robbing Kathy Magaziner. Prosecutors sought the death penalty in that case as well. However, he would receive a sentence of life instead of death for that one. And then his death sentence for the murder of Kimberly Spicer was overturned in 2000 against his own wishes, and the sentence was reduced to life without parole. The rationale for the death penalty was that the murder had been committed in committing a robbery, but the evidence indicated that the robbery was not his motivation. And also what he said he'd killed because he liked to kill. It didn't seem like he was doing it for money necessarily because he had a job.
But the fact that he robbed her after the killing still somehow got him off. Like, if he wouldn't have stole anything, he would have got the death penalty hands down. But the fact that he stole something afterwards and he killed in necessity of a robbery, so to speak, that he gets life. That's a fucked up little part of our justice system right there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't...
I read this as though that he got the death penalty initially because he had done it during a robbery. He had killed her because he was robbing her. That's why they gave him the death penalty. And then they decided he wasn't killing her because he wanted to rob her. He was killing her because he was sick and he liked to kill, and therefore he shouldn't get the death penalty. You know what I'm saying? Like, I read it opposite as you.
Oh.
The court, this is in the crime line, it says the court found insufficient evidence that Metheny had robbed the woman, an aggravating circumstance that allowed prosecutors to seek the death penalty. So they didn't want a guy, they would rather kill a guy who was out robbing and killing people, killing them as a side effect of robbing them. That's the kind of guy you kill, as opposed to a guy who murders people because he truly enjoys it. Let's not kill that guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
You'd think that would be the guy that's
misunderstood.
like, this guy really just needs to not be on this planet anymore. If that's like his favorite thing is just killing people.
Right. See, I understood it that if the actions were reversed, so let's say he robbed her and then he killed her, then it's like death penalty, no question, because you didn't have to kill her to rob her.
Yes.
But
okay, I can see that.
you see what I'm saying? But when you kill someone and then you rob them, they're thinking, okay, well, you killed out of necessity. You must have needed this money or this whatever, and then you just went the extra mile to hide your crime.
Yeah.
You're not an absolute monster, even though in court he's saying, I'm a fucking monster, pretty much.
And not only that, all of his actions as well. I mean, he killed other people as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Joe would end up using graphic language and begging the jury for the death penalty. He wanted the death penalty, and he says at one point, quote, "The words, 'I'm sorry,' will never come out, for they would be a lie. I am more than willing to give up my life for what I have done, to have God judge me and send me to hell for eternity. The only thing I feel bad about in any of this is that I didn't get to murder the two motherfuckers I was really after, and that's my ex-old lady and the bastard she got hooked up with."
Damn.
So he gets off the death penalty even though he's begging for it. And he's really only sad that he didn't get to kill his ex and her.
If he's so sad,
pimp.
if he's so sad that he didn't get to kill them, why didn't he just hunt them? Why did he just take everybody that happened to
much work,
wander
man.
into his
That's
web?
a lot of burning calories.
Exactly. He's a fucking fat, lazy ass. That's bullshit. Bullshit. He just wanted to kill people.
Right.
He's full of shit. He just wants to blame it on them. You know what I mean? Like they're what set him off, and then he had nothing left. Freaking lazy ass.
Yeah. Joe Metheny would end up being found dead in his prison cell at the Western Correctional Institution in Cumberland, Maryland on August 5th, 2017. He was 62 years old. So that's a good run, 62, I guess, for a guy who's that unhealthy. You know, a drug addict for many years, was 450 pounds.
Yeah, 62 is
it had
more
to have
than
been
I thought he would make.
His poor heart finally gave out, dude.
Jeez.
Couldn't take it anymore.
Gosh. Alrighty.
So,
wow.
Yeah, that's Joe Metheny.
Joe Metheny, man. Oh, well, I'm glad that's out of the way. Now people will stop suggesting that. Now we can just send them links when they suggest it. She's like, look, we already did it. Go check this this fucking hamburger out.
Thanks, John Gilbert, for the suggestion
John, yes.
and the 5-star review as well. We hope you enjoyed our take on Joe Metheny. There was a lot of fun jokes in this one.
Yeah.
You know, not as much speculation or any of that. It's a drug addict scumbag that got off on killing kind of defenseless people. So
yeah,
but,
pretty much.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
I'll tell you what, Joe
talk
could
about
have
some Oh My Gaia, and
that's what I was about to say.
Special Oh My Gaia this week because we got some Oh My Gaia to give away.
Oh, hell yeah.
We got 3 jars of Pear to give away. Pear, the new scent. I'm not sure when she's going to be stocking it on shelves and available for purchase, but 3 lucky listeners are going to get some. Like my wife is already using it and is obsessed with it.
Yes.
It smells. I just want to eat her armpits. It
My-
smells so good.
Just want to bite into that
pear.
juicy pear armpit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife's wearing it as well. My daughter has worn it a couple times. They love it, dude. It's a great
It is
scent.
amazing.
It is a great
It is
scent. It's
amazing.
great for summer too. It just smells so summery,
Yes.
so fresh.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
good scent.
All right, so tell us about Oh My Gaia, Michael. Tell us all about Oh My Gaia while we think about who we're going to give away a jar to. I think we'll do one per week for the next 3 weeks, a jar of pear. And so go ahead and tell us about Oh My Gaia.
Cool. All right. If you guys don't know about Oh My Gaia, it's an innovative, all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while maintaining effectiveness. At Oh My Gaia, they use only all-natural, paraben, and aluminum-free organic ingredients. And there's a ton of scents to choose from, guys, like vanilla, cherry almond, sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk, that's one of my favorites, coconut, dreamsicle, leather, lumberjack, honeysuckle, fireside. And there's also limited editions that get cycled in and out, and new scents are being added all the time, like pear, for instance, which we're doing the giveaway. And we also have our own scent called True Crime Pine. It's pretty cool. It's a scent made just for us. It has our old school podcast logo on there. It's got our headshots. It says True Crime Guys. It's pretty cool. It's a unisex scent. Anybody can wear this. It's almost like, to me, it smells like, it's almost like a sweet pine cinnamon, but also it has a good musk to it too. It smells very good. But because you guys are True Crime Guys listeners, you can use the word creeper, CREEPER, for 15% off your order at ohmygaia.com. That's OHMYGAIA.com or at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram. Guys, you won't regret it. It's a great company. It's a small business, and it's doing a lot of good, guys. It's not putting aluminum and paraben in your armpits like your speed stick has in it. You'll feel better. Now, a lot of people don't understand that this is not an antiperspirant. Okay, this is an all-natural deodorant. It's okay for your body to sweat. I think that was like a common misconception, especially when you're younger and you're coming up through school, and when you start wearing deodorant, it's like nobody wants to sweat. Nobody wants pit stains or whatever. But that's actually good for your body. You're releasing toxins, right? You just don't want to stink. And that's
Make
what
your
this
sweat
deodorant.
smell delicious. That's the key.
Exactly. That's the key. It's okay. Everybody sweats. Like, that's fine. You can get pit stains out of your clothes, and you can get them out a lot better when they're not full of chemicals from your deodorant. So, guys, you won't regret it. Oh My Gaia, it's very good price point for organic deodorant. The jars last forever, and you guys will be happy with it. I know you will.
All right, I think I found someone to give a free jar to this week. Maybe next week you can pick someone. I'm picking someone from Instagram that this week mentioned us in their Instagram story, and they were listening to our last week's episode about Kelly Bordeaux. We love it when you guys put us in your stories, and we share it on our story, and it's just good for everyone. So Sarah Kaifa, I probably butchered your last name, but congratulations. We're going to send you a jar of pear, Oh My Gaia. She
Awesome.
mentioned us in her story, so that can help your case if you want to win a jar in the future. Maybe start mentioning us in your story, or just tweet about us or whatever. Use social media to share the show.
Right.
She has goats apparently. I'm looking at her Instagram now, so that's
cool.
also kind of cool. Animal lover.
Yeah.
And so hit us up, message us on Instagram, Sarah, and we will connect you with Wendy to send you a jar of delicious pear. Oh My Gaia.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
Next week we'll give away another jar.
That's right. You'll be hooked. You'll be hooked.
That's right.
Promise.
That's right. All right, let's go through some people who took the time to rate and review 5 stars on iTunes this week. I want to say thank you to Diamond Dog 2014 in the U.S. Said we're best true crime guys. Love this podcast. Very informative and great banter between you. Michael's nervous laugh is the best. Okay.
Thank you.
QF EPI and down in Australia said late to the awesomeness, freeloading as much as I can from this wonderful podcast. Well written and presented. It's thoroughly enjoyable. 6 out of 5 stars.
Wow.
I turned British at the end.
I
Cheerio.
That's okay.
Which takes us into a British review. The very next one, V1973 from Great Britain. Great.
Yeah.
Love the banter between you two blokes. It said two podcasters, but whatever.
You bunch of wankers. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Then we're back to the U.S. for Miss Anna Banana 34 said, can't get enough, 5 stars. Absolutely love your guys' podcast. I'm hooked. Fire emojis. Then we got Tabby 2010 in the U.S. said, great at work. Loves listening to us at work, apparently. Jaunty loves Paul and Cake in Australia. 5 stars, 5 fire emojis.
We got 2 Aussie reviews this week?
Yeah, and
Nice.
a British one. That's what's up.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Hell yeah. And then we got the last one, FG Hunter in the U.S. said, absolutely love your podcast. So thank you guys for taking the time to do that. We love reading them. We love seeing them.
Great way to help the show.
Helps the show, even though it doesn't help us climb the rankings. That's based off of subscriptions, apparently. But still, we it looks good on a podcast when they have a lot of good reviews. If someone's looking to get into like, oh, maybe I'll try these guys, and then they go and they look and they see that they have 1,600 reviews with an average of almost 5 stars. So, they got 4.5 star average with 1,600. It's like they're already going into it thinking it's going to be good,
Absolutely.
And they go into it with the right mindset because a lot of people have already vouched for it. So it definitely helps the show.
No doubt. No doubt.
Right on.
All right, and
so
another way to help
else?
the show.
Oh, yeah. Patreon.
Patreon.com. Right. Patreon.com/True Crime Guys. $2 a month, guys. Gets you tons of extra episodes, tons of extra content, exclusive episodes that we will never release to the freeloaders. Sorry, guys. But that's just part of it. We do 1 episode a month. So if it's a week where you are looking for a True Crime Guys episode on a Wednesday and you don't get it, then it's on Patreon. I promise.
Actually, this week, if you sign up for Patreon this week, we're offering a 2-for-1 coupon on Joe's Roadside Sandwiches.
Oh.
So it's a great week to sign up.
Yes, it's a great week. Is that at the $2 tier? If it is, that is a
$2
bargain.
tier gets you a 2-for-1 sandwich. Joe's Roadside Sandwich in Baltimore, Maryland.
Man, where does he get the meat from, dude? He must be just getting a great deal on the meat. He must buy a lot of wholesale.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, patreon.com, guys. We have 3 different tiers on there with all sorts of different prizes for patrons on there as well. And then also we have our other show, Strange and Unexplained. That's a fairly new show. Episode 11 was just released this week, I believe. It is released on Mondays. And guys, if you haven't heard that show, I'd appreciate it if you go give it a listen. Both of us do. I mainly get to host that show. And then Lauren has a segment on there as well called Lauren's Synopsis, where he fills in all the blanks that I miss and also brings a different insight to the show, maybe a different opinion, or maybe we agree, and it just kind of helps recap the show.
Yeah, but essentially, I just study the case. Michael sends it to me. I study it, and then I go into it blindly, not having heard his take yet. I don't get to hear it. I give my thoughts in like a 4 to anywhere from like 3 to 10 minute rambling about what I thought about it, my theories as to, depending on the case, depending on whether the person was innocent or not, or depending on who killed the person or whatever it is. I give my thoughts on the case. And yeah, great show. And it is hold on.
True Crime Guys production.
Dude, you got to send me just that clip. I forgot to pull it from the other one. I'm going to start putting it in front of all of our stuff, or maybe at the end or something.
Okay.
That'll be cool. Yeah. But yeah, guys, Strange and Unexplained. If you're all caught up on True Crime Guys and you want some more TCG productions, you can check out Strange and Unexplained. There's also a Patreon page, patreon.com/S&U podcast. And you can get all kinds of extra content on there that I'm putting up. I have 2 other shorter shows that I do, one called The Palate Cleanser and one called Strange Shorts. And I just focus. Strange Shorts is a little bit lighter crime, or typically it's older crime from maybe like 1700s, 1800s, stuff that's just interesting, the way that crime has evolved through the years. And then The Palate Cleanser is it's like a more what's the word I'm looking for? A more structured version of Higher Thoughts. It's like Higher Thoughts for everybody. If you listen to Higher Thoughts on our Patreon page on True Crime Guys, which is still available, there's still 35 episodes. I like to call it a complete series because that's it. It started and it ended, and that's where it needed to be. But there's 35 episodes of Higher Thoughts on there. And it's also a good palate cleanser as well. So, I know you guys look into a lot of true crime like we do. And sometimes it can be a little overbearing. Sometimes it can feel like a cloud, Or maybe not. Maybe I know some people can study it, day in and day out with, no remorse. But
some people studying crime for whatever reason brightens their day, makes them happier. Sometimes that does that to me. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, it just depends. Sometimes it makes me grateful. You know what I mean? I'm like, wow. Yeah. I guess
at least I'm not
that
the people
could have
that
happened to me
in
today.
this horrific event.
Yeah, exactly. It gives you some perspective. It's like, oh well, shit, my life ain't that bad.
Could be worse.
It could always be worse. Yep. It could always be worse. But yeah, guys, I'd appreciate it. We would both appreciate it if you go check out Strange and Unexplained wherever you listen.
Yep.
So, all right.
And that about does it. Speaking of Patreon, next week is a Patreon exclusive episode for True Crime Guys. So if you won't be able to hear us next week unless you're a patron member. So $2 a month gets you in on the party. You can listen to a bunch of stuff on there, and you'll be able to hear next week's episode. So
right.
All right. I guess we'll be giving away a jar to a patron member next week then. Sounds like.
Oh, shit. Yeah, I guess we will. But yeah, and if you guys like the banter on Patreon, we don't hold back on the banter. So it's just what we do. We kind of let loose on those episodes. It can get crazy. Yeah, it can get crazy. There's a few tangents, and I'm definitely being modest about that. There's a shit ton of tangents. But if you guys like that stuff, if you like that aspect of our podcast, I definitely recommend checking out the Patreon page. And for $2 a month, I mean, it's shit. That's like half a Starbucks coffee. So, you know what I'm saying? Not that bad. So, all right, that's my spiel, man. I'm done.
Yeah, we're done. See you guys next week for a Patreon exclusive. Thanks for tuning in. Keep creeping.
Crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you. Sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army. We out here making murder. True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you. Sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army. We out here making murder charming.